Short course on targeted financial sanctions. This is a free course from LearningTabs. The course outline is: Module 1. Introduction to Targeted Financial Sanctions, TFS. Module 2. Identifying Targeted Financial Sanctions Obligations. Module 3. Screening Processes and Tools. Module 4. Compliance with Targeted Financial Sanctions. Module 5. Case Studies and Examples. Module 6. Best Practices and Challenges in Implementing TFS. Let's start. Module 1. Introduction to Targeted Financial Sanctions, TFS. What are targeted financial sanctions? Targeted financial sanctions are restrictive measures applied by governments, the United Nations, UN, or other international bodies to prohibit dealings with specific individuals, entities, or regimes involved in illegal or prohibited activities, such as terrorism, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, or human rights violations. Unlike broader sanctions, TFS focuses on specific targets without disrupting an entire country's economy. Key elements of TFS are: asset freezing, preventing any transfer or movement of the designated target's assets; prohibition on financial services, stopping financial institutions from providing services to sanctioned individuals or entities; prohibition of goods and services, restricting certain goods or services, for example, military goods, dual-use items, to or from targeted persons or groups. The legal and regulatory frameworks covering TFS are: United Nations Security Council (UNSC) resolutions. These are mandatory for member states and are the basis of global financial sanctions, particularly in terrorism financing and weapons proliferation. Example: UNSC Resolution 1267, Al-Qaeda Sanctions Regime, imposes sanctions on individuals and entities associated with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Local regulations. Countries often implement these sanctions through domestic laws. For instance, OFAC (US) issues Specially Designated Nationals (SDN) lists. Similarly, EU regulations impose asset freezes on persons contributing to the situation in Ukraine. Module 2. Identifying Targeted Financial Sanctions, TFS, Obligations. Key obligations for financial institutions are: the first obligation is performing screening. Institutions must identify whether customers or transactions are linked to sanctioned individuals, entities, or regions. Example: a bank uses a screening tool to check if an incoming payment involves a party listed in the UN sanctions list. The second obligation is freezing assets. Upon identification, the financial institution must immediately freeze assets and report to relevant authorities. Example: a money transfer service identifies a customer on the SDN list and prevents the transfer, freezing the funds. The last obligation is reporting. Financial institutions are required to promptly report frozen assets and any attempts by designated individuals or entities to access the financial system. Example: after freezing a client's assets, a bank reports the freeze to the central bank and the local financial intelligence unit, FIU. Risk-based approach to TFS include assessing the risk of exposure to sanctioned entities, especially in high-risk jurisdictions. Enhanced due diligence (EDD) on transactions involving sanctioned countries or sectors like arms trade or dual-use goods. Module 3: Screening processes and tools. First one is sanctions screening. The automated screening systems. Most financial institutions use automated systems to continuously screen customers and transactions against various sanctions lists. UN, OFAC, EU. Example of screening: a company submits a wire transfer. The screening system flags the beneficiary as a potential match to a name on the SDN list. The transaction is paused for further investigation. Second is name matching and false positives. Fuzzy logic. Screening tools often use fuzzy logic to match names that sound or are spelled similarly to names on sanctions lists. Example of false positive: a customer named Mohammed Al-Fayez is flagged due to a match with Mohammed Faiz, a person listed under the sanctions regime. After due diligence, it is found they are different individuals, and the transaction is cleared. Now let's look at some of the tools and systems used for TFS. The first one is WorldCheck. It provides a comprehensive database of politically exposed persons, PEPs, and sanctioned entities. Next is OFAC screening tools. Specifically for U.S. regulations, tools that help institutions comply with U.S. sanctions. Last one is Dow Jones Risk and Compliance. It offers global sanction and watchlist screening. Module 4: Compliance with targeted financial sanctions. Let's look at how to freeze assets and prohibit services. Upon identifying a match, the institution must freeze all relevant assets and immediately stop offering services to the sanctioned entity or individual. Example: a sanctioned Iranian shipping company opens an account with a bank, and upon detection, the bank freezes the account and blocks all associated transactions. Let's understand reporting mechanisms. Institutions must have clear reporting mechanisms to their national FIU or regulatory authorities. Example: a UAE-based financial institution reports frozen assets related to a designated terrorist to the UAE Financial Intelligence Unit. Penalties for non-compliance. Penalties can vary from financial fines to applying ban on accessing financial system of that country. Examples: OFAC fines. A U.S. bank fails to screen a transaction involving a North Korean entity and faces multi-million-dollar penalties. EU penalties. An EU-based financial institution is fined for processing transactions involving Syrian oil companies despite sanctions. Module 5. Case studies and examples. Case Study 1. Sanctions violation. Scenario: a European bank processes a $10 million transaction involving a Venezuelan state-owned oil company listed on U.S. sanctions. Outcome: the bank faces fines and reputational damage. They implement stronger controls and automated screening to avoid future violations. Case Study 2. Managing false positives. Scenario: a Kuwaiti money service business, MSB, receives a payment flagged for possible links to a Libyan entity on the sanctions list. Upon investigation, it's determined to be a false positive due to a similar name. Outcome: the MSB implements improved name-checking software and strengthens internal processes to handle such cases efficiently. Module 6. Best practices and challenges in implementing TFS. Some of the best practices in TFS are: apply regular updates. Ensure that all sanctions screening lists are regularly updated to include new designations. Provide effective training. Provide regular TFS training for all employees, especially those in the front office and compliance. Conduct enhanced due diligence. Apply extra scrutiny to high-risk customers and transactions. Some of the key challenges in TFS are: false positives. A common challenge is handling the high volume of false positives from sanctions screening, leading to increased investigation workloads. Global compliance. Different jurisdictions may have varying sanctions regimes, making it challenging for institutions to navigate conflicting laws. Untrained staff. Availability of trained staff is a key challenge for the financial institutions. This is the end of the course. Keep learning at LearningTabs.